Hello from Mindset Daily, wishing you a day full of health, peace, and happiness. Thank you for watching the Mindset Daily channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support us. Thank you so much.
As long as you believe life is just happening to you, your boss is making you miserable, the economy is keeping you stuck, your spouse doesn't understand you, you'll continue to live like a victim. And victims? They don't bounce back. They can't. They're too busy pointing fingers at everything and everyone else. But something powerful happens the moment you shift that belief. When you finally say, I am the author of my life, everything changes. When you take full ownership of your reactions, emotions, choices, and results, you tap into a power that most people never realize they have. I remember speaking with a man after one of my seminars. He had lost his job, his savings, and was about to lose his home. He looked at me and said, Jim, I've had such bad luck. Everything's against me. I asked him, who's responsible for your life? He looked at me like I was speaking another language. Well, it's not my fault, he said. The economy crashed. I replied, I didn't ask whose fault it is. I asked who's responsible for your life going forward. There was a pause. Then something shifted in his eyes. He said quietly, I am. That was the turning point. Not when his job came back. Not when he got more money. But when he made the decision to take responsibility, despite the circumstances. Taking responsibility isn't about accepting blame. It's about reclaiming your power. When you blame others, you surrender your strength. But when you take ownership, even of things that weren't your fault, you stay empowered. And power is what you need to develop a truly resilient mindset. So ask yourself, where in your life are you acting like a victim? Where are you hoping someone else will fix things for you? Where are you stuck saying, it's not fair? Let me tell you, fair is where they judge pigs at the county fair. Life isn't fair. Life is responsive, and it responds to those who take responsibility. Now, the second essential step to building a resilient mindset is to develop what I call a growth philosophy. Your philosophy is your personal lens, your way of interpreting the world around you. It's the mental glasses through which you view every experience. And if those glasses only show you limitations, not possibilities, if you only see problems, not potential, then resilience will never take root. Most people, they're stuck wearing the wrong lenses. They live with a fixed mindset that keeps them trapped. Some people adopt a fixed philosophy early in life. They believe what they believe, and that's the end of it. No more learning, no more growing. Their minds are made up, and unfortunately, often made up small. They become locked in a limited mindset, seeing the world as unchangeable and life as something that happens to them, not for them. But resilient people, they live by a very different philosophy. One that welcomes growth, embraces challenges, and accepts that change is a necessary part of progress. Here's the striking difference. When someone with a fixed mindset faces a setback, they throw their hands up and say, that's just life. Some people get lucky, and some don't. But when someone with a growth philosophy hits the same wall, they pause and ask, what lesson is hidden here? What can I take from this? How can I become stronger because of it? That shift in thinking is everything. Because your philosophy shapes your attitude. Your attitude drives your actions, and your actions determine your results. It all traces back to your core belief system, your philosophy. So let me ask you, what's your philosophy? Is it actually serving you? Or is it quietly holding you back? The good news is this. You don't have to keep living by the same philosophy that's been limiting you. You can change it, starting today, not next week, not when life slows down, not when you feel more confident. Today, I remember having dinner with a friend who had just gone through a massive business failure. He looked at me and said, Jim, maybe I was never cut out to be successful. Now that, right there, is a philosophy, a limiting one. So I asked him, is that really true? Or is it possible you just tried something that didn't work? He paused, then said, well, I did make some clear mistakes. Exactly. I told him, you didn't fail, an approach failed. A strategy failed. But you only truly fail when you stop trying. And that conversation became his turning point. He shifted from, I wasn't meant for success, to, I'm learning how to succeed. That one shift didn't just change his mindset, it changed his results. Within 2 years, he had launched a brand new business, twice as successful as the one he had lost. Not because the world changed, but because his philosophy did. You see, your philosophy is a choice. You get to decide how you see the world and how you interpret your failures. So why not choose one that empowers you? One that turns every obstacle into an opportunity. One that says, problems don't come to stop me, They come to teach me. That, right there, is what we call a resilient philosophy. One that doesn't break under pressure, but bends and adapts to grow stronger. Now, the third essential step to building a resilient mindset is this: managing your emotions. Notice, I didn't say controlling your emotions or ignoring them. I said managing. There's a significant difference, and it's a crucial one. Emotions are incredibly powerful. They can either tear down your resilience or reinforce it, depending on how you respond. Most people, without realizing it, let their emotions take the wheel. They feel fear, so they back away. They feel anger, so they explode. They feel discouraged, so they give up. It's like they're strapped into an emotional roller coaster, riding every high and low with no control, and then wondering why their results in life are just as unpredictable. But resilient people, they experience all the same emotions. They feel anger, fear, sadness, frustration, just like anyone else. The difference is, they've learned to manage those emotions instead of letting those emotions manage them. They understand a core truth. Emotions are meant to be indicators, not dictators. They're signals, not commands. Emotions should provide information, not make the decisions for you. So when you hit a setback, of course you might feel frustrated, maybe even disappointed, overwhelmed, or afraid. And that's okay. You don't have to suppress those feelings. You don't have to pretend they're not there. But here's the real question. Is this emotion helping me right now? Or is it hurting me? Is it moving me closer to my goal, or pulling me further away from it? I once worked with a woman who had been passed over for a promotion, not once, not twice, but 3 times. Naturally, she was furious. And honestly, who wouldn't be? But her anger had started to harden into bitterness. She became withdrawn, skeptical of her coworkers, and began to disconnect at work. And unfortunately, that only reinforced the problem. So I asked her, "Your anger is completely valid, but is it useful? Is it actually taking you closer to the outcome you want?" That question shifted everything. Instead of stewing in frustration, she redirected that emotional energy into action. She began leveling up her skills, building stronger relationships at work, and clearly demonstrating her value. 6 months later, not only did she finally receive a promotion, she was offered a role even better than the one she'd initially aimed for. That's the power of emotional management. It all comes down to the pause. That brief space between the moment you feel something and the moment you act on it. Within that pause lies your greatest strength. It's where you stop and ask, what's the most effective response here? What would my best self do? That's where resilience is built, not in avoiding emotion, but in responding to it wisely. So, feel your emotions. Acknowledge them, but don't hand them the steering wheel. You drive. Let your emotions ride along in the passenger seat. They can speak, but they don't get to decide the direction. Now, that brings us to the 4th essential step to building resilience: mastering the art of reframing. The 4th essential step to building resilience is mastering the art of reframing. Learning how to look at the exact same situation from a new, more empowering perspective. Every experience in life can be interpreted through multiple mental frames. Imagine it like putting a photo in a different frame. The image itself stays the same, but your experience of it changes drastically depending on the frame. A picture in an elegant gold frame feels completely different from one in a plain black frame, even though the content hasn't changed. What has changed is your perception. When life throws something difficult at us, most people instinctively place it in the worst possible frame. They think, "This is terrible. Why does this always happen to me? I'll never bounce back from this." And when you frame your experience that way, it practically guarantees suffering and a painfully slow recovery. But what if you could reframe it? What if you thought instead, "Yes, this is hard, but every challenge brings hidden lessons. What might I gain from this? How could this situation actually make me stronger?" Same event, different frame, and as a result, completely different emotional experience and outcome. Let me share a real example. Years ago, I met a young entrepreneur who had put everything he had, his time, money, and energy, into launching a new business. Just 6 months in, disaster struck. His main supplier went bankrupt. That left him with piles of unfulfilled orders and a wave of angry, frustrated customers. Naturally, I expected him to be crushed. But when we spoke, his attitude surprised me. He said, "Jim, honestly, this has been a blessing in disguise. It forced me to find new suppliers, ones that are higher quality and lower cost. And my customers? They actually respect the way I handled the situation. I've built stronger loyalty through this crisis than I ever had before." That is reframing at its finest. He didn't deny that it was a tough situation. He didn't sugarcoat it. But he chose to view it through a frame that gave him power instead of taking it away. And because he looked for the opportunity, he found one. Reframing isn't about fake positivity or pretending everything is perfect. It's not about denying pain or struggle. It's about choosing the most empowering lens through which to view reality. That's a big difference. When you master the skill of reframing, you build what psychologists call cognitive flexibility, the ability to see multiple angles and perspectives, and then choose the one that helps you most. And this cognitive flexibility, it's one of the cornerstones of real resilience. So the next time life hits you with something unexpected, and it will, pause and ask yourself, what's another way I could look at this? What possible good might come from this experience? How could this serve me in the long run, even if I can't see it yet? Because your ability to reframe your challenges will directly influence how quickly you rise again. Now let's move into the fifth essential step to building a resilient mindset. The fifth essential step to building a resilient mindset is creating your resilience team. Now, this might catch you off guard. We often think of resilience as a personal, internal process, something we build on our own through grit and willpower. And while there's truth to that, it's only part of the equation. What I've seen time and time again is that the most resilient individuals, those who truly bounce back from life's hardest hits, don't go it alone. They don't pretend they have it all figured out. Instead, they intentionally surround themselves with a strong support system. Your resilience team includes mentors who have walked the road ahead of you. It includes friends who believe in your potential, even during those moments when you don't. It includes family members who support your goals and dreams. And it includes peers who challenge you, encourage your growth, and won't let you settle for less than you're capable of. These relationships aren't just nice to have. They're absolutely essential to your ability to bounce back when life gets tough. Study after study has confirmed that social connection is one of the strongest predictors of resilience. People who try to muscle through hard times alone often struggle more, feel more isolated, and take far longer to recover than those who lean into meaningful support. I once worked with a businessman who took great pride in being self-made. He used to say, "I don't need anybody. I built this myself." But then, everything changed. His company was hit with a major lawsuit that threatened to undo everything he had spent years building. And still, he insisted on handling it solo, trying to juggle the legal chaos, the business fallout, and the emotional strain all on his own. The result? He was drowning. Not because he wasn't capable, but because he was isolated. Eventually, he reached out. He got legal help from professionals, guidance from other entrepreneurs who had been in similar situations, and emotional support from friends who could simply listen without judgment. Did the problem magically disappear? Of course not. But his experience transformed because he was no longer in the fight alone. And that made all the difference in his ability to stay grounded, focused, and resilient. So ask yourself, who's on your resilience team? Who do you turn to when life throws you off course? Who gives you real, honest feedback? Who reminds you of your strength when you forget it? And if your list is short, then building that team needs to become a top priority. But here's something people often miss. Your resilience team isn't just about who supports you. It's also about who you support. Being there for others, lifting them up, encouraging them when they're down, strengthens your own resilience too. Why? Because when you're helping someone else rise, you're reminded of your own strength. It gives you perspective. It pulls you out of your own head and reconnects you with purpose. Some of the most resilient people I know are also the most generous. They give their time, their energy, their empathy. And in doing so, they reinforce their own emotional foundation. So don't hesitate to ask for help when you need it. And just as importantly, be that source of strength for someone else when they need you. Because here's the truth. No one builds resilience in isolation. Now, let's move on to the sixth essential step in building a resilient mindset. The sixth essential step in building a resilient mindset is developing what I call resilient routines. Your daily habits, what you do consistently, day in and day out, either strengthen your resilience or quietly wear it down. There's really no neutral ground. You're either building yourself up or slowly draining your reserves without even realizing it. Resilience isn't just about mindset or mental strength. It's holistic. It's also physical, emotional, and spiritual. How well you sleep, what you put on your plate, how often you move your body, what kind of information you feed your mind. All of these influence your ability to recover from setbacks and stay steady in the storm. The problem is, most people drastically underestimate how much their daily routines shape their ability to handle stress. They stay up past midnight binge-watching shows, then wonder why they wake up feeling foggy and exhausted, unable to tackle the day's challenges with clarity. They consume an endless stream of negative headlines and social media outrage, then wonder why they feel so anxious and hopeless about the future. They skip exercise, forget to pray or reflect, and avoid stillness altogether, then feel completely thrown off emotionally when life gets hard. But resilient people live differently. They're intentional. They design their days with care. They know that resilience is built not in moments of chaos, but in the quiet routines that come before the chaos. They understand a key truth. You don't rise to the occasion, you fall back on your preparation. I once had a conversation with a CEO who had successfully navigated his billion-dollar company through incredibly turbulent times. I asked him how he managed to stay so composed under such immense pressure. His answer caught me off guard. He said, "I swim every morning at 5:30. No matter what's going on in the business, good or bad, I never miss my swim. It clears my head. It gives me time to think. And it reminds me that I can move through discomfort." Some of my best ideas come during those early laps. His resilience wasn't some mysterious trait he was born with. It was forged through consistent, intentional practice, day after day. So now ask yourself, what are your resilient routines? Do you have habits that center you, that replenish your energy, calm your mind, and prepare you for the inevitable challenges life will throw your way? If the answer is no, don't panic. You don't have to overhaul your life overnight. Just start small. Maybe it's 10 minutes of meditation when you wake up. Maybe it's an evening walk through your neighborhood. Maybe it's writing down 3 things you're grateful for before going to bed. The specific habit matters less than its consistency, because over time, those small daily choices begin to stack. They compound. They form the foundation of your strength. Always remember, resilience is not built in the chaos of crisis. It's built in the mundane moments most people overlook, those seemingly unimportant acts of daily discipline. And what feels small today can become your greatest asset tomorrow. Now let's move on to the 7th and final essential step for building a truly resilient mindset. The 7th and final essential step in building a resilient mindset is something I call practicing purposeful perseverance. Now, notice I didn't just say perseverance. I said purposeful perseverance. And there's a vital difference. Blind perseverance, just pushing forward for the sake of pushing, without listening, without adapting, without learning, isn't resilience. That's just stubbornness wearing a disguise. Resilience isn't about charging ahead no matter what. It's about continuing to move toward your goals, yes, but doing it with clarity, intention, and flexibility. Purposeful perseverance means keeping your vision in focus, but being open to adjusting your path. It's about staying committed to where you're going, but not being rigid about how you get there. Resilient people don't abandon their dreams when the road gets rough, but they're also not afraid to change their strategy when things aren't working. They stay persistent, but with wisdom, with awareness, with adaptability. I once mentored a writer who had received 57 rejection letters for her first book. Let that number sink in, 57. Most people would have thrown in the towel by number 5, or maybe even sooner. But when I asked her why she kept going, she said something that stuck with me. "I'm committed to sharing my message, not to any one particular way of sharing it." That single sentence reveals the heart of purposeful perseverance. Each rejection wasn't just a failure, it was feedback. Every no taught her something. About her manuscript, about her audience, about how publishing works. And she used all of it. She adjusted her pitch. She reworked parts of her book. She got sharper, clearer, and better. And then, on her 58th attempt, her book was accepted. Not only that, but it became a bestseller. That's what it looks like to hold tight to the goal, but remain open-handed about the method. That's the difference between giving up and getting better. So when you hit a wall, and you will, ask yourself honestly, do I really need a new goal, or just a new approach? Is this a sign to quit, or an opportunity to course correct and grow? More often than not, it's not your dream that needs to change. It's your strategy. Your resilience doesn't come from perfection. It comes from persistence that's guided by purpose. And here's something else. Purposeful perseverance also means knowing your why. Because when your why is strong, when you're deeply connected to the reason behind your effort, then temporary setbacks won't shake you. You're more grounded, more patient, more willing to endure the discomfort of the process because you believe in where it's leading. Your purpose is what fuels your persistence. When you're deeply connected to why you're pushing forward, the setbacks feel less like walls and more like detours. The journey becomes more manageable, not easier, but more meaningful. So let's take a step back and bring all 7 steps together. Building a resilient mindset isn't about checking boxes in order. It's about living out a set of core practices that reinforce one another. You build resilience by taking full responsibility for your life, by adopting a growth philosophy, by managing your emotions with wisdom, and by reframing your challenges into opportunities. You continue strengthening it by building a resilience team, those people who stand beside you, and by maintaining resilient routines that nourish your body, mind, and spirit. And finally, you keep going by practicing purposeful perseverance, pressing forward with intention, not just stubborn will. These aren't linear steps. They're not something you complete and move past. They're ongoing disciplines, woven into the fabric of your everyday life. You live them, you return to them, you grow within them. And here's what I've come to understand after decades of working with people from all walks of life, from CEOs to teachers, athletes to entrepreneurs. The individuals who truly master these 7 principles don't just survive adversity. They thrive in spite of it. More than that, they thrive because of it. They don't crumble under pressure. They use it to rise. They don't see pain as punishment. They use it as a platform for growth. They don't come out the same person. They come out stronger in the places where they were once broken. Let me share something personal. When I was younger, I used to believe that being resilient meant never getting knocked down. That somehow, strength was about being untouched by life's blows. But now I know better. Real resilience isn't about avoiding the fall. It's about how you rise after it. It's not about living a smooth, problem-free life. It's about building a solid inner life that can navigate through storms and still stand tall. And the beautiful part? Resilience compounds over time. Every time you face a challenge and keep moving, you build confidence. Every time you stumble and get back up, you develop emotional strength. You start to realize you're becoming someone you never imagined. Someone not just surviving, but transforming through adversity. You don't return to who you were before the difficulty. You become someone greater, wiser, stronger, more capable. I've seen this happen over and over again. The employee who got laid off, only to launch a business that now employs dozens. The parent who lost everything and came back with more clarity, courage, and compassion than before. There's the man who was laid off and went on to employ hundreds. The woman who faced a devastating health crisis and later became a powerful advocate, helping thousands. The entrepreneur whose first 3 businesses collapsed, but the 4th revolutionized an entire industry. These aren't fairy tales. They're not exceptions to the rule. They are the natural outcomes of developing a resilient mindset, brick by brick, step by step. And here's the part that fills me with hope for you. Resilience can be learned. It's not a gift reserved for the lucky or the naturally tough. It's not a fixed trait that you either have or you don't. It's a set of skills, a collection of habits, and a way of seeing the world, something anyone can develop with practice and persistence. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to start. And if the idea of taking full responsibility for your entire life feels overwhelming right now, that's okay. Start with just one area. Focus on your health, your mindset, your finances. Wherever you feel a small shift could create momentum. If reframing doesn't come easily at first, that's normal too. Begin by practicing it with the little frustrations, the delayed flight, the traffic jam, the unexpected bill. As you build that mental muscle, you'll find yourself more equipped to reframe the bigger challenges when they arrive. If your resilience team feels limited right now, make one connection this week. Reach out to someone who inspires you, someone who listens without judgment, or someone who simply believes in you when you're struggling to believe in yourself. Progress, not perfection, is the real goal. And remember, resilience isn't only tested in life's major storms. It shows up in the day-to-day grind. It's about how you handle small rejections. It's how you deal with the coworker who criticizes you unfairly. It's how you respond when something doesn't go your way. Ask yourself, do you treat problems as dead ends or as invitations to grow? Do you view criticism as a personal attack or as an opportunity to improve? Do you see obstacles as stop signs or simply as detours? Your answers to those questions reveal your current level of resilience and show you exactly where you can start building more. I believe we're living in a time that demands more resilience than ever before. The pace of change is accelerating. Uncertainty is becoming a constant companion. The skills that helped you succeed yesterday might not carry you through tomorrow. In this kind of environment, it's not the strongest who thrive. And it's not always the smartest either. It's the ones who are the most adaptable, the most open, and the most resilient. And here's the silver lining. The same challenges that require resilience are the very ones that build it, if you face them with the right mindset. Every difficult conversation, every unexpected obstacle, every disappointment, each one is an opportunity. An opportunity to strengthen your resilience muscles. The key is not to waste those opportunities. Don't just survive them. Don't just push through and forget. Grow through them. Right now, think about the toughest thing you're dealing with in your life. Maybe it's personal. Maybe it's professional. Maybe it's something you haven't even shared with anyone. Now ask yourself, what if this exact challenge is the very thing you need to prepare for your next breakthrough? What if this obstacle is the forge in which your next level of strength, clarity, and success is being formed? Years from now, when you look back on this season of your life, what if you see it not as a time you barely got through, but as the turning point where everything began to shift? The moment when you finally started becoming the person you were always meant to be? I've come to realize something powerful. Life rarely gives us what we want, but it almost always gives us what we need. And often, what we need is a challenge. One that stretches us. One that tests us. One that forces us to grow stronger, wiser, more grounded, more resilient. Let me share a story that stayed with me. I once spoke with a young man who, by the age of 30, had endured more hardship than many people face in a lifetime. He was raised in deep poverty. He lost both of his parents while still a teenager. And in his 20s, he faced a serious, life-altering health crisis. Yet when I sat with him, what struck me was not his pain, but his positivity. I asked him, "How do you maintain such a hopeful outlook after everything you've faced?" He paused and said, "I've learned that storms don't last forever, but the strength you gain from weathering them, that stays." What wisdom! The storms in your life, the layoffs, the heartbreaks, the rejections, the failures, they're temporary. But the resilience you build by facing them head on, that's permanent. That belongs to you, and no one can take it away. Now, maybe some of you are thinking, "But Jim, you don't understand my situation. It's really tough right now." And you know what? You're absolutely right. I don't know your exact circumstances. I don't know the specific weight you're carrying. But here's what I do know. You are more capable than you give yourself credit for. You've already made it through situations that once felt impossible. You've already overcome setbacks that, at one point, felt like the end. You are already far more resilient than you realize. The real question isn't whether you have the capacity for resilience, because you do. The question is, will you choose to cultivate it? Will you practice it? Will you intentionally strengthen it day by day? Will you take these 7 essential steps and weave them into your life? Not just when times get hard, but every day? And most importantly, will you commit to building a mindset that doesn't just survive hardship, but rises because of it? And here's the truth. Life is going to test your resilience, whether you're ready or not. Challenges don't ask for your permission. They don't knock politely to see if now's a good time. They show up, sometimes suddenly, sometimes relentlessly, and they demand a response. In those moments, you will respond with one of two things. Either with the resilience you've built intentionally, or with the fragility you've allowed by default. There is no in between. That's why I urge you, choose resilience. Choose to take full responsibility for your life, no matter what's happened in the past. Choose to adopt a growth philosophy that empowers you to evolve. Choose to manage your emotions rather than being driven by them. Choose to master the art of reframing, seeing setbacks through a new lens. Choose to surround yourself with a strong resilience team. Choose to commit to daily routines that fortify your strength. And finally, choose to persevere with purpose. Now, let me be honest. These choices won't make your life easier overnight. They're not quick fixes. They won't magically eliminate challenges. But over time, they will make you stronger. And when you get stronger, everything else begins to shift. What once seemed impossibly hard becomes simply difficult. What was once difficult becomes manageable. And what used to feel overwhelming eventually becomes second nature. That is the quiet, compounding power of a resilient mindset. Over the years, I've had the privilege of working with people from all walks of life. From high-performing CEOs to single parents juggling impossible schedules. From elite athletes to individuals in recovery, fighting to reclaim their lives after addiction. And through all those experiences, I've observed something truly fascinating. It's not the circumstances that determine who breaks and who grows. It's not about who had it easier or who got lucky. The real difference lies in how people face what comes their way. Take 2 employees, both laid off from the same company on the same day. Same position, same timing. One sinks into despair, blaming the economy, blaming management, blaming anyone and everyone. Months go by in resentment. Motivation fades. Eventually, they start looking for work, but without hope or direction. The other? They also feel the pain. They give themselves a few days to breathe, to feel the loss. But then, they shift. They choose to see the layoff as a redirection. They use it as a chance to realign with their deeper values, to find work that better reflects their strengths. Same external event, two entirely different internal responses. And as a result, two completely different outcomes. Or take two entrepreneurs. Now consider two entrepreneurs. Both have businesses that fail. One decides they're simply not cut out for business and retreats to the perceived safety of a traditional 9-to-5 job. The other takes a different path. They step back, analyze what went wrong, extract key lessons, and apply that insight to their next venture. That second business, it succeeds, not in spite of the failure, but because of it. Because of the wisdom, humility, and clarity gained from the first attempt. Once again, same external event, radically different internal response. And let me be clear, what I'm describing here isn't just surface-level positive thinking. This isn't about pretending everything is fine when it's not. It's not about slapping on a smile and ignoring real problems. It's about positive responding. It's about choosing to take what happens, good or bad, and finding a way to use it for your own growth and transformation. True resilience lives at the intersection of two powerful mindsets. Being realistic about your current circumstances and being optimistic about your capacity to grow through them. This balance matters deeply because pure realism, without hope, can pull you into cynicism and eventually surrender. And pure optimism, without a grounding in reality, can lead to naivete, disappointment, and disillusionment. But when you combine clear-eyed realism about the problems you're facing with a deep, genuine belief that you have what it takes to overcome them, that's where a resilient mindset is born. I often compare resilience to physical fitness. Think about it. You don't develop physical strength by avoiding exertion. You don't get stronger by staying comfortable. You build muscle by intentionally facing resistance, and then allowing your body to recover, adapt, and grow. Emotional and mental resilience works the same way. The resistance you face in life, those setbacks, disappointments, and failures, they're not in your way. They are the way. But here's the catch. Just like in the gym, it's not just about lifting weights. It's about lifting them with the right form. If you train with poor form, you risk injury instead of growth. In the same way, if you respond to life's resistance with poor mental habits, blame, avoidance, victimhood, you weaken over time instead of becoming stronger. That's why these 7 steps we've explored are so important. They are your proper form for building resilience. These 7 steps are your foundation. Your proper form for building true resilience. They ensure that life's inevitable challenges make you stronger, not broken. But to truly benefit from them, you can't just understand them intellectually. Understanding alone isn't enough. It's in the application, the daily practice, that transformation actually happens. So let's go a little deeper into each step, beginning with the first, taking full responsibility for your life. Now, let me clarify something important. When I say take full responsibility, I don't mean that you take blame for things that were never in your control. This isn't about fault. It's about ownership, owning your response to what happens, no matter the circumstances. There's a subtle but powerful difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is often immediate, automatic, emotional. It's driven by habit, conditioning, or fear. Responding, on the other hand, is intentional. It's thoughtful. It's a choice. Most people react to life's difficulties. They lash out. They shut down. They fall into old patterns. But resilient people? They create space between stimulus and response. They pause, reflect, and then make a conscious choice. They live by the principle, I may not control what happens to me, but I always control what happens within me and through me. This is the mindset shift, from victim to creator, from passenger to driver. And without this shift, the rest of the steps have no solid foundation to stand on. Next, let's talk about developing a growth philosophy. This goes far beyond just believing that improvement is possible. It's about adopting a worldview that sees every experience, especially the painful ones, as opportunities for growth. People with a fixed mindset tend to ask, why is this happening to me? It's a question rooted in blame, in powerlessness. But those with a growth mindset ask instead, what is this teaching me? That question opens a new door. It turns the situation into a classroom. And here's the truth. Your philosophy isn't just the words you say out loud. It's what your actions reveal. Do you shy away from hard things? Or do you lean into them? Do you persist when things get tough? Or do you throw in the towel the moment things don't go as planned? Because resilience isn't something you declare. It's something you live, one choice at a time. Do you welcome feedback with curiosity? Or do you instinctively defend against it? The way you answer that question reveals more than just your attitude. It reveals your core philosophy. Because how you engage with discomfort, especially emotional discomfort, tells the truth about whether you're truly growth-oriented or simply avoiding pain. Now let's talk about managing your emotions, another vital component of resilience. Managing doesn't mean suppressing what you feel. It doesn't mean pushing your emotions down and pretending they're not there. On the contrary, emotions are valuable messengers. They're signals alerting you to what matters most. Anger, for example, often points to a boundary that's been violated. Fear usually highlights something you care deeply about that feels threatened. Sadness often reveals what you cherish and what you've lost. The goal isn't to silence these emotions or let them run wild. It's to acknowledge them, understand what they're trying to tell you, and then respond, not react, based on your deeper values and long-term goals. It's about pausing and asking, what is this emotion telling me? And what response would best serve the version of myself I'm working to become? This kind of emotional intelligence is at the core of resilient living. Because let's be real, challenges always come with emotions. You can't avoid that. But if you don't learn to manage those emotions, they'll manage you and often steer you down a path that works against your best interest. Now, let's turn to the art of reframing, which becomes especially powerful during seasons of unexpected change or painful loss. When something important disappears, a job, a relationship, an opportunity, it's normal to focus on what's been taken away. That sense of emptiness can feel overwhelming. But reframing invites you to take a different look. It challenges you to ask, what do I still have? What new possibilities could emerge now that this door has closed? I once worked with a woman who had spent her entire adult life building a career in an industry that was quickly vanishing due to technological disruption. At first, she was devastated. She saw it as the end of everything she had worked for. This is a disaster, she said. Everything I've built is disappearing. But with guidance, she shifted her frame. She began to see her deep industry knowledge, combined with her adaptability, as a rare and valuable combination. She reframed the situation. I'm not obsolete. I'm a bridge. I understand both the legacy systems and the evolving future. That simple mindset shift allowed her to reposition herself. Not as someone left behind, but as someone leading the transition. And that reframe didn't just preserve her career. It accelerated it. This is the power of choosing your perspective. Because what you focus on expands. And sometimes, when one door closes, another doesn't just open. It invites you into a room you never knew existed. Let's now look at the next step, building your resilience team. When it comes to building your resilience team, it's all about quality, not quantity. You don't need a massive circle of people cheering you on. What you need is a few right people. The kind who genuinely support your growth and have your back when life gets tough. Ideally, your resilience team includes a diverse mix of support. Someone who offers emotional encouragement when you're low. Someone who gives honest, constructive feedback, even when it's hard to hear. Someone who provides practical help, whether it's advice, connections, or resources. And someone whose example inspires you. Not just by what they say, but by how they live. Be intentional about nurturing these relationships. Don't wait until you're in crisis to start building your support system. Like any good investment, it takes time to grow. Start now, reach out, reconnect, be present. And don't forget, resilience teams are reciprocal. You don't just receive support, you give it. In fact, some of your own resilience will be forged in the process of helping others navigate their challenges. And when your turn comes to face something hard, you'll draw strength from those moments of shared humanity. Now let's talk about resilient routines, the daily practices that shape your mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual strength. Here's something many people get wrong. They think intensity matters more than consistency. But it's the opposite. A short, consistent habit, like 5 minutes of meditation each morning, is often far more powerful for building resilience than a once-in-a-while weekend retreat or a sporadic burst of effort. These small, daily deposits into your well-being accumulate over time. They build a reserve, a kind of internal stability that you can draw on when the storms hit. Pay special attention to routines that expand your capacity for discomfort. In today's world, convenience is everywhere. We're shielded from discomfort so often that when it finally shows up, we're caught off guard. That's why voluntarily stepping into challenging activities, whether they're physical like exercise, intellectual like learning a difficult concept, or emotional like having a hard conversation, trains you to tolerate stress. It builds what I call discomfort tolerance, and that is a key pillar of real resilience. Finally, let's revisit the last pillar, purposeful perseverance. This isn't just about pushing through obstacles with grit and willpower. It's about balancing two vital qualities: determination and discernment. Determination keeps you moving forward when things get hard. It fuels your resolve. It reminds you of your why. But discernment? That's what keeps you smart. It's what helps you recognize when to pivot, when to adapt your approach based on the results, the feedback, and the evolving situation. When you lean too far into determination without enough discernment, you risk burning out. You become rigid, locked into a strategy that may no longer be working. But if you lead only with discernment and not enough determination, you risk giving up too soon. Too much determination without discernment can lead to wasted effort, pushing hard down a path that's clearly no longer serving you. You keep grinding, but you're not gaining. On the other hand, too much discernment without determination causes you to retreat at the very first sign of difficulty. You start, but never finish. You plan, but never act. Resilient people develop both. They build the grit to press forward through hardship and the wisdom to know when a pivot is necessary. It's not either or. It's both. Now, let me pause and acknowledge something that may be on your mind. Some of you might be thinking, this all sounds great in theory, but you don't understand what I'm dealing with. You don't know how heavy it is. And you may be right. Your current challenges might be bigger than anything I've ever experienced. They may be extraordinary in depth, duration, or pain. But here's what I've witnessed over the years. The principles of resilience work, no matter the magnitude of the challenge. Whether you're facing a frustrating delay in your plans or a life-shattering crisis, the same 7 steps provide a reliable framework, a roadmap to guide your responses, a way to move toward growth instead of defeat. Sure, the application may look different. Someone dealing with the loss of a job will walk these steps differently than someone navigating grief from losing a loved one. But the principles remain constant, because resilience is not about the size of the storm. It's about the way you respond to it. Some of the most profoundly resilient people I've ever met weren't those who had easy lives. Quite the opposite. They've faced catastrophic losses, deaths, chronic illness, financial collapse, even natural disasters. What sets them apart isn't that they avoid pain or pretend it doesn't hurt. They feel it deeply. They mourn. They grieve. They struggle. But they don't allow those emotions to define or confine them. They don't let the pain be the end of their story. Instead, they integrate the experience. They extract meaning from what they've gone through. And slowly, sometimes painfully, they move forward, not unchanged, but transformed. That brings us to a vital truth about real resilience. It's not about bouncing back to who you were before the hardship. It's about bouncing forward into a stronger, wiser, deeper version of yourself. Not in spite of what you've endured, but because of it. Because true resilience doesn't just help you recover. It helps you evolve. You evolve. Think about it. After walking through a significant challenge, would you truly want to return to being exactly the same person you were before? Or would you rather come away with something more? Wisdom, strength, compassion, or a new perspective? Because that's what resilience really is. It's not about pretending the pain never happened. It's not about erasing the impact of what you went through. It's about integrating those experiences into your life in a way that makes you more, not less. I remember a conversation I had with a man who had lost his entire business during a major economic downturn. The collapse was devastating at the time, but years later, he had not only rebuilt, he had created something even more successful, more stable, and more aligned with his values. When I asked him what he learned from that first experience, his response stopped me in my tracks. He said, "I learned that I'm not my business. When my first company failed, I thought that meant I was a failure. But now I know I'm more than what I do or what I own." That realization gave me a kind of freedom I never had before, not even when everything was going well. That right there is the essence of transformation. His resilience didn't just help him recover. It didn't just bring him back to where he started. It elevated him. It deepened his understanding of who he was and what actually mattered in his life. That's the real power of a resilient response to adversity. It changes not just your circumstances, but your character. And as we come to the end of our time together, there's one final truth I want to leave you with. Building a resilient mindset isn't something you do once and then check off a list. It's not a one-time achievement. It's a lifelong practice. You don't arrive at resilience, you cultivate it. Day by day, challenge by challenge, failure by breakthrough. And just when you think you've got it figured out, life will introduce a new situation, a new test, one that requires you to stretch again, grow again, and reach a whole new level of strength. But that's actually good news, because it means there is always more resilience available to you. No matter where you are right now, whether you're just starting to build these skills or you've been walking this path for years, there is still more growth, more clarity, more inner power to uncover. So remember this: resilience, like all the most valuable qualities in life, is forged through difficulty. Don't wish for an easy life. Don't wish for an easy life. Wish for the strength to navigate a difficult one. Don't pray for fewer problems. Pray for the wisdom to rise above them. And don't look for circumstances that demand less of you. Aspire to become the kind of person who can handle more. Because the true rewards of developing a resilient mindset go far beyond simply surviving difficult moments. Resilient people often experience greater life satisfaction, better health outcomes, stronger relationships, and more meaningful achievements. And it's not because they live easier lives. It's not because they're spared from hardship. It's because when challenges come, and they always do, they respond in ways that lead to growth, not defeat. So let me offer you a challenge. Starting today, commit to living by these 7 essential steps. Take full responsibility for your life. Adopt a growth philosophy that sees every experience as a teacher. Learn to manage your emotions with wisdom and intention. Master the art of reframing, choosing empowering perspectives. Build your resilience team, your support network that holds you up. Establish consistent, resilient routines that fortify your body and mind. And practice purposeful perseverance. Press forward with grit and discernment. Begin by focusing on just one area where you know your resilience could grow stronger. Maybe that means finally taking ownership of a situation where you've been caught in a cycle of blame. Maybe it means reframing a setback you've been seeing as purely negative, asking instead, what might this be teaching me? Maybe it's reaching out to someone who could become part of your support network. Or maybe it's creating one small daily habit, a meditation, a walk, a journal entry, that builds your mental and emotional foundation over time. Whatever it is, take that step today, not tomorrow, not when you feel more motivated, not when circumstances finally calm down. Today, because the best time to build resilience is before you're desperate for it. And always remember this: you are capable of far more resilience than you think. Inside you is the capacity to face whatever life throws your way, with courage, wisdom, and a spirit that refuses to give in. That strength may be quiet. It may be untested. It may be waiting in the background. But it's there, waiting to be awakened, waiting to be called upon, waiting to be strengthened by the way you choose to show up today. Life will always bring moments that test your resilience. That's not a question of if, it's a matter of when. Your role is to prepare yourself so that when those challenges arrive, you don't crumble, you rise stronger because of them. The 7 steps I've shared with you today, these aren't just ideas. They're your training ground, your preparation for the inevitable trials that life will throw your way. Think of them as the mental, emotional, and spiritual tools that shape how you show up when it matters most. And before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one powerful image. Several years ago, I visited a forest that had recently been ravaged by wildfire. The scene was haunting: charred trees, scorched earth, and a heavy silence where vibrant life once thrived. It looked like total devastation. But then, my guide pointed out something I'll never forget. Amid the ashes, tiny green shoots were breaking through the blackened soil. Life was returning. He explained that certain seeds in that forest actually require the intense heat of fire to open. Without that fire, they would remain sealed forever, dormant, untouched, full of untapped potential. That moment reminded me so deeply of what it means to be human. Sometimes, it's only through the most painful, disruptive, and unexpected experiences that our deepest strengths and gifts are released. Sometimes, the fire is not just a destroyer, but a revealer of what's been inside us all along. You will face fires in your life. That's not a possibility, it's a certainty. The real question is, what will emerge from those fires? Will they harden you, discourage you, strip you of hope? Or will they awaken something stronger, wiser, and more resilient within you? Will you let them define your limits? Or will you allow them to expand your potential? The choice, as always, is yours. Choose resilience. Choose growth. Choose to see adversity not as punishment, but as the spark that ignites possibility. Choose to build a mindset that doesn't just endure hardship, but transforms it into stepping stones toward the highest version of yourself. Thank you so much for joining me today. Now go out, apply these principles, and see how they not only reshape how you handle life's difficulties, but how they transform the way you experience life itself. The resilient mindset you build today will serve you for a lifetime, guiding you through challenge, helping you create meaningful success, and giving you the strength to rise no matter what life sends your way. Wishing you great health, deep happiness, and continued growth. And don't forget to subscribe to Mindset Daily for more empowering content like this.